Top of the morning. One of my favorite days of the year. So we'll sober up and do a great show today. Bob Brown got Brendan Martin running the controls.
How are you going to tell me it's your favorite day of the year?
I
And
know.
You don't even have a freaking green on anywhere I can see, and you are not.
I left,
this.
and I'm a Scotch-Irish Catholic.
Well,
I left my
today-
green shirt in the other
Today
room.
you ain't nothing but a guy that's getting pinched.
Well,
That's all you
I
are.
might have to.
That's it. So how you doing, dude?
I know. Look, I'm messed up. We got a great show today. Dave Tompkins.
I should be president.
Yeah, I
should
can't believe.
I should run the world. I should remind everyone. I should wake up in the morning and send a text to the world. Here, world. This is Brendan's reminder of the day. Today is blank, and we're going to do blank today.
I just
So
can't
happy
believe.
St. Patrick's Day to all my Irish people out there. I love you
my
all.
God.
Oh yeah, go Gators. Oh,
Yeah. I can't. You know, we're a neutral show.
Hell no, we're not.
Switzerland.
I don't
'Cause,
know.
I mean, I'm an Auburn grad. He's a Florida guy, but I mean, we're talking all 16 SEC schools. Audrey, St. Patrick's Day. I'm wearing.
We're talking the SEC champions today. That's
Yeah.
what we're talking about.
Well, Auburn. Then we're talking about the Auburn Tigers at regular season, and then Florida won the tournament. There's only been 4 teams, I think, win. It's hard to win both. Very hard to win both. So,
All right.
I tell you one thing. I don't. You know, right
Bring
now,
our
Florida,
friends here. Let's talk to our buddies. Let's get to the show.
Florida's
Let's
playing
get
better than
going.
anybody in the country. That's the thing that we do know. Auburn getting that #1 overall seed doesn't protect you from anything. Makes you a bigger target on your back. All right, let's bring in Dave Tompkins. Take a picture of that QR code with your phones. Be a subscriber to SEC Sideline Sports Network. We've got a lot going on. We added Scarbo Knows last night, his new show on the channel. That was awesome, Brendan. And, man, we had a distinguished panel. And I think we solved most of the world's problems in just over 60 minutes. And, guys, all night long, I've been thinking about these seedings. And if I'm a coach, I don't care if they put me on the moon. I'm going to embrace it and love it and say, I don't give a damn where we got to play. If it's in the parking lot, we're going to be ready. And because if you let all that other stuff, if you let your past control your life, you have no future. And if you let where you get seated do it, it affects you. You got to embrace it. I think Florida got screwed. They should have been in the Midwest. But you know what Todd Golden's going to do? He's going to put, in my opinion, he's going to put the best team in college basketball on the court right now. And they're playing on another level. Now it's no more mulligans, Dave Tompkins. No more. Speaking of St. Patrick's Day.
Well, I decided I wasn't going to drink today, believe it or not, so I'm not wearing green. Then we have, of course, you know, is it the end of ACC bias? Well, maybe not. But Duke, of course, is playing its first 2 games in Raleigh.
Yeah.
What's that, about 8 miles from their campus, 10 miles from their campus. And then their regional games are basically where their alumni base is in New York City.
Yeah.
So I think that sucks. I really want to see Duke get bounced early. I agree with you. Florida's the best team in basketball right now. Unfortunately, I think the second best team is in their regional, and that's Rick Pitino's St. John's Red Storm team. I guess they're not the Redmen anymore.
Redmen.
But yeah, I can't wait to talk brackets. This is my favorite day of the year because you just get to, all you do is talk and talk and talk all day.
Well, and you know what? Duke, Bubba Cunningham, the athletic director at North Carolina, is the chairman of the NCAA selection committee. And North Carolina comes in on 4 bald tires, a suspended driver's license, and uninsured motorist, and gets a damn bid with one ranked win or one quad 1 win over all.
One quad 1 win.
That's a disgrace. And you talk about Jay Billis and the ACC network or ACC, what you do is this should embrace everybody. If you play an ACC team, especially Duke or North Carolina, bury them, man. I mean, that's
make it hurt.
Awful. Yeah.
Make it hurt. Yeah, I think one thing I did is I looked at the top 4 SEC teams and I said, okay, what's their downside and what's their upside? So Here goes. Auburn. I think Auburn's got a pretty easy road. I think their tough one is going to be in the Elite Eight if Michigan State's still around. So I put their downside at the Elite Eight, that they could get to the Elite Eight and lose to Michigan State just because Tom Izzo is so tough in the tournament.
Yeah.
I think their upside is the Final Four. Florida, I think their downside is the Sweet 16, just because they have Texas Tech there, and Texas Tech's a really tough team. I think their upside is their national champion. I think they're the best team in basketball right now, hands down. Tennessee, I have their downside as a Sweet 16. I think they could lose to Kentucky in the Sweet 16. I think their upside is the Elite Eight. I don't see them getting past Houston. Alabama, I think, has the easiest draw of the four top SEC schools. However, they face St. Mary's in the second round, or probably will face St. Mary's, and that's where they could have a problem, just because St. Mary's is that meat grinder kind of team that always gives Alabama trouble, like San Diego State a couple years ago. I think their upside is the Final Four, not because they're one of the four best teams in basketball right now, because they're not. I just think they have a relatively easy draw.
Scarbo knows, and he pointed out, if you look at X, follow Kevin Skarbinski, man. And Dave, you need to be getting on X more and more because you've got tons of data too. But Scarbo's pointed out that Kentucky is 5-0 against Alabama, Louisville, and Tennessee this year. And they are, and didn't they beat Florida early in the season?
They beat Florida. They lost to Alabama. They lost to Alabama.
Yeah, that's right. But they've got a hell of a record. What makes Florida so good to me is the way Todd Golden coaches. He doesn't go off the hinges, and he trusts his players. Like I know he and Bruce Pearl are buddies, and there's a lot of similarities there. But the difference stops at their friends, because Florida has the big guys that can run the court, Dave. They're they are. I call them the throwbacks, the Fighting Gators. They are a team that plays a different style of basketball, but they're not just big guys like, look at this guy. They are athletic and can run the court. That's why they're my pick to win it all.
Yeah, sorry. I hope you can hear me. I just had audio problems.
You're fine. Dave?
Here I come.
We got you.
We hear you. You're fine.
Now can you hear me?
Yep. Houston, we have a problem.
No.
There we go. I'm back.
You're back. He's back.
All right. Okay, he's back. All right. So everything went off. So I'm just gonna ad lib here.
Oh, you hear us all right, Dave?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes. You're fine. We hear you and see you fine. I wonder if you're
okay. Cool.
All is good.
Yeah, we had it's kind of like the what was it in Watergate, the psychiatrist tapes, Ellsberg and they
Daniel Ellsberg
47 seconds missing. That was me. I picked I had 7 as the over under on number of SEC schools that would make the Sweet 16. If you go chalk, then you have Auburn, Florida, Tennessee, Alabama, Kentucky, and Texas A&M making the Sweet 16 if chalk rules, which it often doesn't. And then who of the other 8 teams in the tournament from the SEC, who are the other, say, 2 that are most likely to make the Sweet 16? I would put Ole Miss and Arkansas on that list. Yeah. I think people would put Missouri and possibly Georgia, just because Georgia's had so many quality wins throughout the season and then played other teams when they lost really tough. But this is the SEC's year. I think them getting 14 was well deserved. I love that the ACC only got 5, but then again we have the North Carolina Duke thing. But this is great. The game starts tomorrow night. I can't pull against North Carolina because my better half's a grad, but she's kind of out of earshot right now. I hope they lose tomorrow night.
Well, look, I don't hate the ACC. You know that. And I don't hate North Carolina, but I also don't like bias. You've got to be fair. And I picked last night on the Skarbinski show. Scarbo knows, they said, pick your Final Four. Everybody had to do it. And my Final Four was Michigan State, Florida, Alabama, and Houston. And I've got Florida playing Houston for the national championship and Florida winning. I'm an Auburn grad, but I don't see them getting to the Final Four. I hope I'm wrong, in that interest. But when I'll fill out multiple brackets. I fill them out for my dogs, my kids. I've got to fill a lot of brackets out. But I'll tell you something. Georgia beat St. John's. I don't care when it was, but when you beat St. John's, I think Rick Pitino, who was it said last night? Was it Skarbinski that said it, Brendan or Franz, that he thinks that Rick Pitino's a vampire? the guy can coach his ass off. He's been married to the same woman over 50 years. This guy,
how does the being married to the same woman over 50 years
I'm just saying he's an Iron Man
football coach? He's an Iron Man?
I'm just saying he's an Iron Man.
Skin pigmentation is just it gets a little off-putting with each year. It's just, he just gets paler and paler and paler.
He does.
And then the dyed hair.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, Georgia beat them a while back. There's been and Auburn and Alabama both beat Houston. And, the thing is, here's why I think, Auburn got the overall number 1 seed based on the whole season. The NCAA comes out and says, we don't put any added emphasis, Franz, on the last 10 games of the season, because Florida's won like 9 of their last 10, 11 of their last 12. Franz, Bubba Cunningham, what went through his mind other than pure bias when he put North Carolina in that tournament and allowed Duke to play in Raleigh, which is, like Dave said, 8.2 miles from campus?
Well, the first thing he did was he made sure that nobody could blame him for not firing Hubert Davis because by putting them in the tournament, by helping them get in the tournament, he doesn't have to fire a coach. Saves a bunch of buyout money that he needs to pay for Bill Belichick. So let's start with the obvious. Now, here's the thing that they try to do. They do their dead gum best to ensure sellouts. This is why Kentucky gets a number 3 seed, because otherwise nobody comes to watch a 3-14 game. Everybody gets bored with those things, and so they put Kentucky in as a number 3, and I think in Milwaukee, which it's not the armpit of the earth, but it's fairly close. And so anyway, you get a sellout there. You get Louisville coming down to Lexington. You get a sellout there, and that's what they're doing. The first round, you always see stuff like this, and it's always about selling out arenas for bad games, and typically 1 through 4 versus 13 through 16. You're talking about bad games. So you got to know that they were going to do that for Duke. Now, here's what they screwed up. Florida and Auburn should be flopped. Okay. Florida should have been the number 1 and gone to the South, and Auburn, because of what they did, nobody else has 16 quad 1 wins.
And that
Auburn
has to matter.
Should have been the number 1, but put them going to San Francisco. To say that Florida's the 4th best team of your number 1 line, that's a joke, because Florida will wipe the floor with all 3 of those teams. Duke at its best is maybe the 5th best team in the SEC. Maybe. Yeah. And I've seen I've watched Duke probably 15 times this year. They're a good team. Missouri would kill them. That's all I got to say. The Aggies would turn it into a rock fight, and John Shire would spend his whole day whining. So anyway, that's just the way the weenie wiggles. And I covered ACC basketball for years when I was up in North Carolina. In fact, I'm going to take my day off. I'm going to go over to Rocky Mount and visit my old haunts and see if I can still find the place I used to live. But anyway, they got the 4 teams that should have gotten number 1s. The only thing they did was they should have done that, or else they could have put Florida in the Midwest and said Houston West. But
Yeah, Houston's going to – I'll tell you what, Auburn – you have to look at the whole season. Auburn definitely earned the number 1 overall seed, but it doesn't protect you. Like Doug Dean said, it doesn't protect you from anything. I think it makes you a bigger target, but you should expect everybody's going to come after you. Auburn, Florida, Duke, Houston. But all the seeding, there's nothing we can do about it, but Auburn definitely deserved it because of 16 quad 1 wins. But North Carolina, on the flip side, Franz, 1 quad 1 win. Dave, resumes do matter. And the team that scares me, I don't know what it is about Tom Izzo. The guy's an amazing coach, but St. John's, let's talk about wild cards. They're not really a wild card. They're a 2 seed. And you saw Madison Square Garden. What an atmosphere. That's the way I love about college basketball.
Rick Pitino is amazing. If he gets St. John's to the Final Four, I think this will be the 4th team he's taking to the Final Four, or 4th program he's taken. Providence, Kentucky, Louisville, and now St. John's. I think he even won a conference championship with was it Boston University before Providence. I mean, he is just amazing. Every year he gets one pale of shade whiter. Just as every year Kelvin Sampson loses about 7 pounds, and pretty soon Kelvin's going to go under 100 pounds.
He's going to disappear.
He just you compare his weight now than when he was a coach at Indiana. Yeah. Shout out to Rocky Mount, where Franz was talking about the home of Phil Ford, the point guard for North Carolina from about 1968 to 1984.
I was a sports editor when he was in high school there.
Oh wow. Yeah, I've always been an enormous Tom Izzo fan. I think this would be his 8th Final Four if they and he's made the Final Four as a 1 seed. He's made it as a 7 seed. I think maybe even a higher seed. He is just, and his teams just get better and better as the year progresses. Mm-hmm. And I disagree with the committee. I think the committee should place special emphasis on the last 10 games of the season. And as such, Florida should be the overall number 1 seed because they're clearly the best basketball team, I think, by a large margin. And I would put St. John's as the 2nd best team right now. I have Kentucky coming out of the Midwest. I think Houston's going to have problems with the winner of the Gonzaga Georgia game. I think Kentucky's going to beat Tennessee, and I think Kentucky's going to go to the Final Four. I just think they have so much talent, and their talent is going to come to life. They're not tethered to the pressure of a home game. They're not having to face a hostile crowd. It's just they're just going to play loose, and I think go to the Final Four. My Final Four is Michigan State, Florida, Alabama, and Kentucky.
Wow. Well, one thing about Kentucky, listen, I have zero tolerance for people whining about, well, we were hurt, we were injured. Tough shit. Deal with it. Next man up. Everybody's got depth on their roster. But the thing about Florida, I mean, I'm not mad at anybody, but if you're going to do it the way the rules are written, you look at the overall resume, that's how Auburn got it. But right now, Florida's playing better than anybody. But, last year, you remember Auburn was playing hot as fire, and so was Florida. And Florida lost to Auburn in the championship for the tournament, but both went out in the first round, Florida to Colorado and Auburn to Yale. And don't blame Chad Baker Mazzara. You got 40 minutes to win the game. Sometimes stuff like that doesn't help, but I go to the Kentucky thing with Mark Pope, a 3 seed, and the Kentucky name carries a lot of weight. But I look at Houston every year. Kelvin Sampson is going to have his team up there, but St. John's is my wild card to blow everybody's brackets up. And another team, I don't know what it is. As long as Danny Hurley is coaching and making people mad, who wants to play UConn right now? Because they know what a championship tastes like. Franz, I don't know if you like Danny Hurley or not, but I think he's a great coach, and I love his arrogance and his confidence because you're not arrogant or cocky when you're that good. You're just that good.
I knew his dad, and his dad, when his dad was coaching St. Anthony, and dad, everybody talks about Bobby, and Bobby's not had any success at all at Arizona State. In fact, if they had any money, they'd fire him now, but they don't have the money. They can't afford the buyout that it would take, particularly since they just gave their head football coach a big raise. So it's amazing how the money plays into who's going to be your coach next year and who isn't, and so forth like that. Danny Hurley coaches the way his dad did, and he's always going to have a really good offensive team. This is maybe the worst defensive team he's had, largely because they don't have that guy like they had last year, Conan the Barbarian or whatever his name was, like 7'3" and about 295, and he just sat there and he was like a brick in the middle of this gigantic brick or concrete pillar in the middle of the paint, and they don't have that this year, but they've got some good players. That's going to be a good basketball game. But again, here's where Florida beats everybody. Florida overwhelms everybody with depth. And it's not like, okay, I'm replacing, my 7-footer is gone, so I got to get a 6'7", 210 guy off the bench. No, Florida comes in bigger than they were before off the bench. And now they get Sam Alexis back, so they're 5 deep up front. And Sam Alexis is a mere 6'9", 244. Okay, so and next year they'll have Ali Ryu, who I don't know if you saw the video, cut down the nets standing still. Flat-footed, didn't have to go up the ladder.
I saw it.
He is a legit 7'10" and a half, and that's not in his sneakies. In his sneakies,
7'10".
Yeah. In his sneakies, he's 8 feet tall.
My dark horse coming out of the Florida regional is right there in your hometown, Rob, and that's the Memphis Tigers. I think they've just been quietly good all year. They've got a ton of athletes. You know them a lot better than I do. But I think this is Penny Hardaway's best team, and I think they could make some noise. They've got a tough road. I think Colorado State's going to be tough for them. Then they got to play the Crab Five in Maryland. If Maryland can in fact beat Grand Canyon, which is also a sneaky good team.
Yeah.
But if Memphis cannot get tripped up early, they might make a deep run, and I think they could give Florida a game. I think Florida's obviously a better team, but watch out for the Tigers.
Well, and the Memphis UAB rivalry, Battle of the Bones. Again, one of the reasons I love college basketball. You grow up in Memphis, it's a really big deal. Franz, we could use a writer like you on the staff, or Scarborough. I mean, and I'm that's these venues. Let's talk about the venues. Auburn comes out of Lexington, and I'm confident they will. They get to go to Atlanta. They're 21. I know they're about, I looked at a list, there's over 21,000 Auburn alumni in Atlanta, plus just regular fans. And I'll be down there next week to see Mallory. And she's an Alabama grad, but love her. And this is a great time of year. These venues that you've got, first off, that's a huge advantage for Auburn. But just like it is, Dave, Duke getting to go to New Jersey, because you're the one who came up with that great tag, the University of New Jersey at Durham. And, my son Wilson, living up in Charlotte, he said, Dad, when you go to these ACC games, it's like a giant, the people that are at these games are some of the most influential people in America. There's a lot of smart people making a lot of money over there, and they know their basketball. But they also, I should have had Tommy Kane on here, our good friend from over in, he's up in now Charlotte again, where he's an NC State guy. I just think these venues are going to be a bigger deal than people think because of, in Auburn's cases, the witnesses that'll travel. But the SEC schools travel like nobody else. We're starting to get the football mentality into basketball. Would y'all agree? I really think we are.
I'm just gonna tee Franz up because he always likes to appropriately poke fun at the Big Ten. But you look at the degree of athleticism that we saw on ESPN in the SEC championship, Florida versus Tennessee. The degree of athleticism in that game.
Wow!
And you compare that to Michigan and Wisconsin. I mean, it was like two different sports being played. I mean, yeah, they're all tall guys and they're, shooting the ball in the basket and sometimes dunking it. But there was so much more athleticism in the SEC championship than there was in the Big Ten championship. Wow. And I think that's going to play out. I think the only Big Ten teams with a chance to make the Elite Eight are Michigan State, as we've talked about, maybe Maryland. But I just don't. No one besides Michigan State really impresses me coming out of the Big Ten.
Well, nobody in the Big Ten impresses me, period. But
nor have they ever.
Mister, I don't like the Big Ten, Franz.
It is not the Big Ten. It is the Big Ten plus 8. And so let's call them by their appropriate name. I mean, how can you beat the Big Ten when you got 18 schools? It's kind of like the Big 12. It's the Big 12 plus 4. I mean, let's if they want to call it the Big Coast to Coast League, they can do that. If they want to call it the Big Ridiculous League, which is because you got Oregon and Washington and Southern Cal and UCLA, that's fine. What is Rutgers doing in that league anyway? Come on. Rutgers is only proving how capable you are to jump from one league to another league to another league and be last place no matter which league you are in.
Actually, I would if a team's going to come out of the Big Ten, I've forgotten about Oregon. I think Oregon, Dana Altman's a very good coach, and they always seem to play well in the tournament. So that's a sleeper team.
Dana Altman, who somehow or another, when they had the big cheating scandal, somehow or another cheated like crazy and got away with it. So I mean, Will Wade, on the other hand, I promise you this: Will Wade will either be the head coach at Texas or at North Carolina State in 2 weeks.
You think they're going to fire Rodney Terry?
I think they're going to. If they get blown, if they lose the play-in game, yes. I mean, they're in a situation where they've got to do something. Rodney Terry isn't getting it done. And, he's got a buyout, but they'll just tell somebody, go in your backyard, pump some oil. We got to buy this boy out here. And that's how they do it there. Only God has more money than the Longhorns. And only God and the Longhorns have more money than the Aggies. So, it's amazing. I'm going to show my SEC bias here in one respect. Right now, the SEC is better than everybody has been. Okay. Now there were times in the past, I got to tell you, when I was covering ACC basketball, not only was I biased toward it, it was because the ACC was better than everybody else. Yeah. But that's a long time in the past now. The ACC, I'm appalled and shocked at what has become of what traditionally has been the very best basketball league in the country. But there's a reason. You lose Roy Williams. You lose Krzyzewski. You lose Boeheim. Maryland goes to the Big Ten plus 8. You replace teams with Stanford and California. Are you kidding me? And Schmooze? Yeah. I mean, come on.
You lost Tony Bennett. You lost Jim Larinaga.
Yes, you did. Great coaches.
Yeah.
And you look at who Virginia is going to, Virginia, I haven't seen a list of possible replacements for Tony Bennett that I would think is capable of carrying on Tony Bennett's winning traditions at Virginia. I see Virginia going back down where Virginia's always been before Tony.
Here, keep this in mind. A Memphian who went to my school, Paul Tudor Jones, hedge fund manager up in Connecticut, is the arena is named after his father, John Paul Jones Arena. And his dad in his mid-90s was still sitting courtside at the Memphis Grizzlies games. Paul Tudor Jones will not let Virginia slip back into an abyss. But, of course, I remember in the late 70s when my sisters were in school in Virginia at Hollins College in Roanoke, listening to the Virginia game. A lot of
good-looking women there.
Yeah, oh boy, there sure are.
I loved going up there to visit.
I agree with that.
Every hot woman from Mountain Brook went to Hollins.
Yeah, it was fun. And I went up there one time, and I didn't get to go back. My parents said, you can never go back without us being there. In high school, I was just too much. But I'll say this. When you look, Virginia, I listened to, in 10th grade, I went up there for a few days to visit my sisters. But I'll say this, Ralph Sampson was such a big deal out of Petersburg, Virginia at 7'4". I've followed Virginia a long time. Tony Bennett was a hell of a coach, a different style of basketball. Franz is right. Franz, I love that comment. They were just, what you covered the ACC when they were just better than everybody. They were just demonstrably better. And let me say something about winter timber. We're going to get back. This is an awesome, happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. Woo. Winter Timber Outdoors in Athens, Alabama. They're open every day of the week. It is turkey season is upon us, folks, in the South. Get your ground blinds, your decoys, your wood, your slate calls, your diaphragm, your mouth calls. That's what Doug Dean likes. You've also got the box calls. You just take your preference. The turkey loads, the Migra ammunition turkey loads. They sell them at Winter Timber Outdoors. They'll outfit you head to toe. This is a Southern-owned outdoors business. Winter Timber Outdoors is going to expand in the footprint all over the SEC. Okay? They've got Sitka gear, duck camp, Dixie decoys, ammunition, over 2,000 shotguns, rifles, and handguns. Kenny Winter, Dylan Monroe, great staff. I know some of the investors, they are Southerners. They are committed to the outdoors, and look for an announcement hopefully soon in the Memphis market. Big store under construction in Auburn right now. Winter Timber Outdoors. Love these people. Proud to have them as a sponsor. Dave, let's think about this. When you look at basketball, and Franz and you are so good at breaking down all this minutia and putting it in the vernacular with relative ease, but it's a guard-heavy deal when you play in the Big East. These kids, there's something about playing street ball in Boston and Philly and New York, and it's just a tough. And Franz will tell you about the Dominican Republic, Chad Baker Mazzara. You know, you got to be tough to come out of there. What is it that scares you most for these SEC schools, which have been playing each other for a long time? We stepped out to play the ACC, but it's been a lot of familiarity. Now you got to get out of whatever you want to call it. I'll call it, you got to get out of your comfort zone. What concerns you most about SEC schools and the other teams are going to have to play from around the country, notably the Big East?
I'll first cite an Ivy League school, Yale, who beat Auburn last year.
Yale
game coaches.
Yes.
The Northeast and specifically the Big East have a ton of good game coaches, and that becomes so important in the tournament when you don't have time, you don't have a season to prepare for a team like you do in conference, and you have to if it's the second game of the weekend. You've got only 48 or less than 48 hours to prepare. And the Big East seems to always have really good game coaches. Tom Izzo from Michigan State's a great game coach. Danny Hurley's a great game coach. What's the coach at Creighton? I always forget his last name. His son, McDermott, his son played for him for a while. He's a very good game coach. And those are the types of teams that can, that can win on short rest and can do something to make the other team the more superior team, which in this case would be an SEC team, uncomfortable. That's why I'm worried about Alabama in their second round game against St. Mary's. Randy Bennett is a very good game coach. He will figure out a way with inferior athletes to make Alabama uncomfortable. And Alabama has shown time and time again, when they're uncomfortable, they have a good chance of losing. I think Alabama has an easy road after that, but I think it's the game coaching. And yeah, you're right. The guards that can, just make things happen when the defense is sort of seeing this guard for the first time.
Yeah. Okay, Franz, here's the question I'm going to throw at you. You just talked about some of these game coaches that are so good. That right there, Danny Hurley, that's the one that just he's an assassin. I mean, when you get into these, it's just one shining moment. We know the song. So when you look at these games, Mark Sears for Alabama, he doesn't have to score 30 for Alabama to win. When they beat Auburn at the last second buzzer, he only had 7 until he had 9. But those last 2 were very important. So Grant Nelson, we don't know what
he's
Grant
the
Nelson,
guy.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's your guy. They've got to be healthy. Yeah.
If he's not healthy, Alabama, no way. If he's healthy, Alabama can run Duke out of the gym. Alabama can run just about anybody not named Florida out of the gym. They really can get out and get the job done. And they're not a great rebounding team, but they get a lot of rebounds because they shoot so many threes. You get a lot of long rebounds, and they're very athletic on the perimeter. They can get to those. A long rebound on a 3 ball is essentially a 50-50, and Alabama is one of the best in the country at getting the 50-50 balls. And they get you at a pace that you don't like. And it's kind of like what Florida did to them, because in the last 5 minutes of that ball game, Alabama had dead legs and Florida was still fresh because Florida just keeps throwing guys in there, one after another that can run. Florida's got the advantage of having 5 big guys that can all run, that can all put the ball on the deck and start the fast break. They're in another team in the country that can do that. And that is huge for moving forward in this. But Alabama, healthy, I think can win that regional easily.
All right, Franz, timeout.
Agree.
Let me stop you real quick. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I got to ask you this because you're on a roll. What other team size-wise out there that comes to mind compares to what Florida has, or even Alabama, because they're pretty damn good. Like you say, when you shoot a lot of threes, you get a lot of perimeter rebounds. But I'm looking for a comparable team to the Gators, because I hadn't seen it yet. But you watch a lot more basketball than
Michigan's got the size, but doesn't have the athleticism.
That's right.
on the perimeter. Although that Auburn transfer they have,
Trey Donaldson,
pretty darn good. And believe me, this guy was a better safety than he will ever be a point guard. I saw him play high school football, and he's playing for Charlie Ward. And I'm thinking to my, high school ball, and he's playing. Charlie Ward coaches basketball at their school. And
Tallahassee, Godby High School, or Lincoln.
No, he played at Florida A&M High. Florida A&M High.
Okay.
And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, why are you wasting your time in this? Because you'll be good in this sport. You could be great in the other. But anyway, that's another story for another time. But here's a team. I'll give you a dark horse team, and Dave has mentioned it, that's got size and can compete, and that is St. Mary's. And St. Mary's should not be discounted by anybody. And they got a point guard whose dad was a really great one back in the day. Marshall Onis, whose dad, I don't know if any of you got people remember, I'm sure Dave does.
Sarunas from Lithuania.
Yeah.
One of the great Soviet Union teams, when they had Sabonis, Sabonis, before his injuries, would have been the greatest center of all time, period.
Totally agree.
But he tore his Achilles 4 times, and at the end couldn't jump anymore.
He was basically a supersized version of Bill Walton.
Yes, he was. He was 7'4", and he weighed 320 pounds, and he had taken ballet dancing.
That's why he was so athletic. But wasn't he from Vilnius?
Yeah, he's from Vilnius,
capital of Lithuania. Yeah,
Lithuania.
Yeah.
And Marciulionis was the point guard on that team, and his kid is the point guard at St. Mary's. And they can run, and they've got size, and they're more athletic than people think. And that Gonzaga beat them in the championship. You know, Gonzaga wouldn't have made it into the tournament without it. And I watched that game, and I thought to myself, you know, of all the games for St. Mary's to just come out flat out lay an egg, they did it that game. And of course, it helped Gonzaga, helped Mark Few keep his string alive of getting a team in. But that's a team that's got size and that can really, really do it. I'll give you another team that I think is going to be in Raleigh, for example. And these guys are capable of turning any game into a rock fight, and that's Baylor. You know, and well coached, coach who's won a national championship, been there, done that, and he has a team. And when you play them, you bring your brass knuckles, billy clubs, and switchblades, because that's what you're going to need to fight them off, because they're going to defend you to the end. I don't like Houston. You know, I know, Rob, I know you do.
Why? Yeah.
Why? Because I don't, you know, they got a lot of 6'7", 6'8" guys, and I don't think you can win at this level with a lot of 6'7" and 6'8" guys. I think you better have, you know, like UConn did the last couple of years. They had, you know, Klinger, you know, Corporal Klinger, you know,
yeah,
as opposed to Colonel Flagg.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well,
I mean,
Franz, you know,
you don't have the big. If you don't have the big guys, you aren't going to win. It's still that way.
Well, and this is interesting. Look at a team like Ole Miss. You know, hotty toddy. Got a lot of I got a lot of Ole Miss friends that watch this show, and they're like going, Brown, what do you think about Ole Miss? And I'm like, they're the same thing. They don't have the height, but they've got Chris Beard as a coach. And you saw where somebody
the Texas Beards.
Yeah, the Texas Beards. But the guy's won everywhere he's ever been. I don't see him leaving Oxford. People, you know, if you have not been to Oxford on the campus at Ole Miss, get down there. It'll blow your mind. It's beautiful. They've got the number 3 accounting school, by the way, in the country. Trust me, lots of CFOs of Fortune 500 companies are Ole Miss fans. They've got money. They ain't gonna be because of money. And I tell you what, Indiana basketball ain't what it used to be. But SEC basketball ain't what it used to be either. I love this talk about, you know, a team that always is there is Creighton. You know, these Big East teams. I don't know what it is about. I grew up with Big Monday. That's on my brain. Dave Gavitt. What I saw at Madison Square Garden yesterday tells me college basketball is healthy. And, you know, I love when Pitino, the vampire, said, you know, we're New York's team. That was, and the crowd went crazy. And this, golly, I don't know how many people are going to pick St. John's to win it all. But I got to ask y'all about Memphis. I want to get Francis' thoughts. Dave brought up a point about Memphis. They won 29 games. Penny had to get a whole new staff before the season. Y'all remember that. That's pretty good at adjusting on the fly. Franz, what is Memphis' ceiling as you can see it? Because, and I may be putting you on the spot. I probably am. But
well, here's he's got a lot of athletes. No question about that. He's got a lot of athletes. And if you get into a really undisciplined ball game,
Yeah.
they can beat the hell out of you. They really can. If you get them in a situation where you're going to defend them and you're going to make them defend, they're beatable. They're very beatable. But this is a team that survives on imposing its will on the other team. And they're good at it. I give them a lot of credit on there, but that's got to be their secret, is imposing their will. If they get with a team that, for example, can get them to force them to defend, that can force them to maybe even play in the half court. For example, I'm looking at they're starting out against Colorado State, and Colorado State can beat them. Nino's a good coach there at Colorado State. I mean, he really does know what he's doing, and they're hot as they can be. They've won, I think, 10 games in a row.
10 in a row, yeah.
They are really, really good. I'll tell you another game that's in this bracket that, okay, let's say Memphis gets by Colorado State.
Yeah.
Look out for Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon is better than anybody thinks, and nobody knows about them because they've never been on TV, but they got one of the Drew brothers there. I think he was formerly at
Bryce Drew is the kid that made the
Valparaiso
shot for
to beat Ole Miss.
Valparaiso, yeah.
And also
Scott Drew's at Baylor.
The first coach ever to coach Vanderbilt to a losing season at Memorial Gymnasium. Hard to believe. But, Franz, you're right. They're the Carlton, the doorman of college basketball, Grand Canyon University. You hear about them, but you never see them, except for those commercials on TV. There's like
you want to know something?
500,000 students or something like that.
Grand Canyon and Liberty, if you add the online students, are the two largest universities in America.
Right.
Believe it or not, those two universities can rival most SEC schools in cash. Just flat out having cash. They don't have to rely on boosters. And the reason is, if I'm taking an online class, I don't have to run the lights in a classroom. I don't have to pay, the instructor. It's all done on us. Online education is just cash cow for people who really have figured it out.
Don't tell anybody. It's a secret.
If you've ever seen the campus at Liberty and their athletic complex, they got an absolutely gorgeous athletic complex. They got a football stadium that they're going to, I feel certain they'll expand that to about 45,000. Right now, I think it seats about 28 to 30,000. It's gorgeous. They got a beautiful arena. They've got everything there. In Grand Canyon, same thing. Jerry Colangelo helped Grand Canyon get off the map. And they are now, like I said, with all the money they've got flowing. So that's a team that you look at this. Thunder Dan Majerus is the guy that really got their basketball program off the mat there. And they're another one of these teams. So you got teams in the West that can do it. I don't think Memphis will do. Memphis will make the Sweet 16 maybe, but I don't think they'll get beyond that. I'm just not sold on them at all.
Is this Majerus any relation to the former hotel dweller Rick Majerus?
No. It's Dan Marley. He played for Dan Marley. He played for the Suns, and I think he college in Iowa or somewhere.
Yes, I was going to say.
Why didn't I think about the dog in the movie?
Marley Rick. And me. Well, Rick Majerus, when he coached Utah, used to live in the hotel. Another great one that lived in a hotel. I'll never forget the day he died. Telly Savalas, y'all remember him?
Yeah.
Probably the greatest actor ever.
Rick Majerus was the manager of Al McGuire's 1974 NCAA runner-up. He was the manager.
Well, I thought he was.
And you talk about a good game coach. That was Rick Majerus.
Oh my God! I thought he was Lumpy Rutherford from Leave It to Beaver all grown up. He was a hell of a coach. I mean, and
fun guy.
Yeah.
My
Yeah. Oh,
gosh.
Funny.
well, and Jack Ramsey. I mean, talk about some great coach. You know who the winningest basketball coach is in Pac-12 history, and he never won a national championship? Ralph Miller, Oregon State University.
I was going to say Lute Olson, but he won one.
Yeah, he won
Yeah.
one. But this is such a great conversation. Let me, and we're going to come right back to it. I want to say something about Landers. We got a lot of sponsors. I want to talk about Landers Ford, folks. Get out today. They're open Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And a couple of things to keep in mind. We all know what a pain it is if you got to take your vehicle in for service. And when you do this, you know, you got to get a friend to give you a ride. You got to get a ride out there, get a ride back. They'll provide round trip transportation at Landers Ford, and they're open every day except Sunday. Let them know you heard about them on Sidelines. They'll take $500 off. Ask for Brad Bellamy, the general manager. And also keep this in mind, guys. We're going to get back to this conversation on the NCAA tournament. I know I'm going to fill out, I think, 9 brackets. I mean, I'll have them in my deal. I mean, my kids will fill them out. I fill them out for all of our pets. So they take the animal mascots. It's kind of easy.
If you're going to talk about brackets, we have to talk about join our challenge here. We've got the Ernie March Madness Tournament Challenge. That's our official brackets where we're taking each other on, Dave Tompkins. You can go online, click on this QR code, and check it out. You pick your team. Join the team that you pick. So if you're a Gator fan, you join the Gators team. And then there you go. Nice job, Dave. I like that. Interactive. And then you're a part of the, on the website, you're a part of that team as a group. And then if you win, there you go. And if one person on your team wins and has the best score, not only do they get $5,000 as an individual, but your team gets a trophy. And you get this giant trophy sent to your town, whatever bar of your choice. And for 1 year, you get to talk smack with everybody else. So as Gators, and this show, we have a lot of Auburn and a lot of Gators. We're doing our own little fun thing where we're going to be Franz and Buddy and we're going to fill it out. And for the rest of you Auburn losers, we're going to kick your ass. So we're going to talk smack. And so Rob's going to go on. He's going to fill it out. And he's going to, you fill it out online. That's the best way. It's interactive.
Dave's an Alabama guy.
Like Dave can figure out whatever he wants. He's going to join my team anyway.
He's on my team. Yeah. Dave, West Point, the Black Knights of the Hudson. Help me.
All right. So the idea is you click on it, you go and you fill it. It's fun. And it's also a great site. It's fun. And you just fill it out right there. You don't have to download all that stuff. And then you're in. And then the announcement comes, and this is a big deal. They've been doing this for years, and we're excited to do it. So fill out your brackets right here. We all fill out 30 of them. Check them out right there on the QR code. Get it done before Wednesday is a time on this. You got to get it done. It has to happen. So
don't procrastinate. Okay. Hey, I just got a text that we're in the show. Tommy Kane, our good friend, who was a walk-on, played basketball for NC State at the end of the Jim Valvano and then Les Robinson coach. He was a manager, and they were about to play Duke the next day. They were down a man. He's a cool guy. I love this guy. And they threw him a jersey like the Coke commercial with Mean Joe Green. Said, hey, we need a man tomorrow. You're the next man up. And Tommy's out there playing, and he watches Valvano go to mid-court and give that impassioned speech when he was on TV that day. Tommy knows his basketball. Maury Gaston picked up on that and said, hey, would love to hear what Tommy Kane's got to say. And we're so heavy on the SEC, but he knows the ACC, SEC, the whole picture of basketball. But he worked on Fox Sports Network Southeast for like 15 years. He's got a production company called Pack Production. Awesome guy. He'll be on tomorrow. And it ain't going to be like, let's pile it on the ACC. It's just going to be like, we're going to give him some hell, though. I can assure you that.
Tommy Kane played for Les Robinson, who got his start coaching 46 miles from Gainesville at Cedar Key, Florida.
Cedar Key.
Yes, indeed. And back in the
hurricane magnet.
Oh, heavens, yes. Back in the 60s, Cedar Key won 60 consecutive ball games and won a couple of state championships there. But population, I think 812. And but he was the coach there. And speaking of North Carolina State, I hope he comes up there because he lives in Gainesville. Monty Tao lives in Gainesville, one of my buddies, and
all 5'7" of him.
Oh, he wishes, and maybe in his shoes. Most people do wear shoes when they play. 5'5",
typically
undefeated as a high school quarterback in Indiana. All ACC baseball twice, and if he ever gets you in a pool hall, he will take your money. You will leave minus your wallet, minus your credit cards, minus your cash, and if you're lucky, you'll still have your clothes on.
Well, I tell you, all of these, I love these stories about these people because Tommy, boy, his knowledge of basketball, it's so much fun to have him on because of what he's experienced and what he's seen. And, there's just, and the guys on that 1983, that was 42 years ago, NC State team, that we're all going to go back and look at our favorite memories in basketball. But that one at the Pit in Albuquerque, the Final Four, that's
Garrett
about
Wittenberg, Lorenzo Charles,
Sidney Lowe.
Sidney Lowe.
Valvano was the coach at Bucknell, and they used to come through Savannah when I was working there, and they'd play Armstrong State on going down, go to Florida, play 2 games, and then play Savannah State on the way back. And Jimmy V would take us out to the Pirates House, which is a terrible tourist trap, but he'd do it. But they're playing Armstrong State, and he gets up there officially. He's an absolute wild man in those days. Hair going all over the place. I mean, sweat. He was the Sultan of Sweat before Bruce Pearl. And he gets up there, and I'm right by the score sheet, and he says to the official, he says, "Can I get a technical foul because of something I think?" And the official says, "No." He says, "Well, I think you suck."
Yeah. Well,
yeah. Him up.
The officials, God, I'll tell you one thing. Shake hands with the officials before the game. Do anything you can to curry favor with them. We're looking right now at the interest. I can't wait to see what the TV numbers have been throughout the season for SEC regular season basketball. I know that the highest rated game that I know of on TV this year, you got up to 3.6 million, was the first Iron Bowl of basketball, February the 15th in Tuscaloosa at Coleman Coliseum. Hey, put a boot in them. Put them on Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. That is Memphis. That's where my wife Audrey's from. She grew up. Collierville wasn't very big. Her backyard was a cotton field, man. You know what? You go to Hewlett and Dunn. They have the coolest selection of boots. They've got them made out of everything that ever ran, flew, swam, or crawled. Trust me, they got them all. Filson, Barber, Duckheads. The National Duckhead Museum curator, Maury Gaston from Sylacauga. Maury would go in here and it'd be like he would pass out. But they've got so much right now. They got a 50% off sale. They got the Rock Mount shirts. They've got a great selection of shoes. And these Danner shoes, I love them. They're called trail shoes. I wear these things all the time. They're comfortable. Danner out of Portland, Oregon. They've got the greatest selection of Danner I've ever seen. They constantly get in these new trail shoes. They've got lots to choose from. Great looking women's clothing. Unbelievable selection of these women's purses from STS and the clay polymer earrings. They're new. My wife's wearing her shamrock earrings today. And I forgot to wear my green. I got some green in this shirt, but it's subtle. But check them out, hewlettanddunn.com. I love Oh, Shrek. Look at those plumber's helpers on the side of those are his ears. I'm sorry. Shrek.
Potential first round upsets.
Yeah. Let's think about who are your
Yale.
first round upset? Yale?
Yale, Akron, Drake, VCU, McNeese State, Grand Canyon. Those are some potential first.
Yeah.
potential first round
I have
upsets.
I actually have a list of those, Dave, because I did some research on that. I was just going to ask you before we go, because it's I have some interesting stats. If I'm not a super big numbers guy, but
Yeah, he is.
well, I can't be because I can't tell. I'm dyslexic, so I have a hard time with numbers. But we got 10. I asked top 10 potential upsets. Number 11, New Mexico State. Number 6, Clemson. Number 12, Madison over number 5, Wisconsin. What's interesting is I asked AI to do this for me because I was interested to see what it came up with. And it based it off the criterion that trending since 1985. Number 12 seeds have beaten number 5 seeds 53 times. And in recent years, reinforced this matchup as a hotspot. Number 11 seeds also frequently upset number 6 seeds, with models showing 8 games in 2025 with a 30% upset chance. So, Dave, with that being said, they gave me a list of top 10 potential teams likely to cause first round upsets. It's a predictive model using a couple different things, which I don't understand, but it was number 1, number 11, New Mexico versus Clemson. And then you have James Madison over number 5, Wisconsin. 12, UC San Diego over number 5, Michigan. And I think that's number, and then Drake over Missouri. I think
All right.
and then it goes on and on and on. So, anyways, Dave, I just thought it was cool that you pointed that out. So
The UC San Diego Tritons, Tritons.
The only other team that is Eckerd College in Florida is also the Tritons. So there's 2 of them.
Eckerd Drugstore.
Yes, the former Eckerd Drugstore.
Remember?
Yeah.
I got Creighton beating Louisville. I got Michigan surviving against San Diego, but without a doubt, white knuckles all the way. I got New Mexico beating Shaka Smart.
Okay.
Over on the other side of the bracket, I hate Duke. I mean, goodness, and folks, let's say it properly. I mean, if you've ever been to Chapel Hill, there's no such place as Duke. It's Duke, Dook, Duke.
Well,
Okay?
and they really Duke playing 8 miles from campus. Of course, the average person in North Carolina is really not a Duke fan. I mean,
no,
they're NC State or North
they're
Carolina.
regular people.
Yeah, they're pretty much the.
I wonder if Franz's battery died, maybe. But
Franz come back.
He's only been on like crazy all the time. He'll probably come back to us. But I popped up the brackets here. This is also the Ernie Sports brackets, so that they got a good interactive deal. I just highlighted the 1 seed. I highlighted the favorite teams, so we didn't have to like delineate between. So the blue is the top seeded teams, and then obviously the ones underneath it. So sorry.
It's gonna be Ernie's brackets. People, take a picture of that QR code and get involved in this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna break it down. I'm gonna be looking at it. I've won my office pool a few times. I've been second before. Villanova was my money team. I love Jay Wright. Boy, I wish he was still coaching.
It's a pretty cool thing because it's interactive, so you can select, different criterion that you want to look at or whatever, and it filters it out and it highlights it for us. So it's kind of fun when you're picking. You can kind of get, I know a lot of these do this kind of stuff, but this seems real easy to work with. So it's nice.
Yeah, if they make it easy, you'll get more people doing it. This is just, God, look, Dave, you're right. Dana Altman, Oregon, hard to believe they're in the Big Ten too.
I don't see a Butler or VCU with Shaka Smart or St. Peter's or Loyola Chicago with Sister Jean, George Mason with Larry. I don't see any of that happening this year. I mean, there's going to be some first round upsets, maybe some second round upsets, but I don't see Cinderella making the Elite Eight this year. I think that the top half of the brackets and particularly the SEC teams are just too strong. But we will have our share of tremendous one shining moment, first round and even some second round upsets. We'll make, for a couple of wonky Sweet 16 teams that are 12 or 13 seeds, but I don't see any of the lower seeds making the Elite Eight or beyond.
All right, Franz,
The one
quick
team
question.
that
No Cinderella dancing this year for you, Dave.
the one team I think that could really shock everybody will come out of that Kansas-Arkansas game. And I think the winner of that game could make the Sweet 16. I can't see them getting to the Final Four, but I could see them getting there. And that's interesting because Cal and Bill Self were Larry Brown's assistants when they had Danny and the Miracles, and they won the '88 national championship.
Against Oklahoma.
Those were they were Calipari. They were Larry Brown's assistant coaches. They're best of buddies.
Look, here's one thing.
Beat Oklahoma in the final. Oklahoma had, I forget their coach that was
Jerry
Mr. Run and Gun.
Jerry Tubbs. Yeah.
Tubbs, yep.
He had that.
Billy Tubbs.
One of the great Billy Tubbs.
Jerry Tubbs was a football player.
Yeah, but Billy Tubbs had that comb over, man. He was awesome.
He did.
but here's the question right now. Looking at all these games, we don't at this point we don't see these surprise upsets and all.
We never do.
We never do. That's the problem. You know what I think it boils down to win the NCAA championship? Regardless of what you did during the season, if you had a great regular season, you got hot late or whatever, you got to be able to compartmentalize and get your guys to realize if we play better than anybody else, this is a fresh start. We've been paroled from the good, the bad, and the ugly of the regular season. That's why it's like being in the commission sales business. On the 31st of the month, you made $80,000 that month. The very next day, you're at a zero. You didn't lose $80,000, but you're at a zero. And for those of you that are ADHD, it's Christmas, man, because you get to refocus. But I think the SEC schools are going to do very well because I think iron sharpens iron. We hear that all the time, but it's lasted for thousands of years. Playing tough competition day in and day out prepares you, but it's going to be
I sure hope so, because we're going to have egg on our face if we don't.
Exactly. Well, last year,
it's like last year the same stuff.
Brendan
so
and I.
Embarrassing.
Remember, Brendan, last year we talked about this.
I know.
Everybody was how great, and I was going, well, let's see. And then you saw that first weekend, Auburn and Florida out, but Tennessee made it to the Elite Eight. Bama, after struggling late, gets to the Final Four.
With 14 teams in, you got to think you
SEC
better
wasn't
win.
nearly as good.
One of the guys, somebody's got to win it. So
somebody's got to win it.
The SEC last year wasn't nearly as good as they are
no,
this year.
They're not.
But far better. And I look at it like this: the coaching in the league this year has been at an elite level, and I don't think we give these coaches enough credit. I mean, look. I mean, I know Auburn faded late, but look what Bruce Pearl did until then. He had Auburn playing at a spectacular level. Yeah. Todd Golden, might be the next Dean Smith for all we know.
Yeah.
He young, brilliant. Rick Barnes is going to peak. He's going to outthink most people and win games. You got guys like Buzz Williams who, if Indiana had a brain, they'd hire him.
Yeah.
They really would. I don't know that Indiana. I think Indiana had a lobotomy though a while back, and they haven't. Nobody's. This is kind of like a young Frankenstein.
Have y'all seen the comments from Dan Dockich?
Have you
seen Dan Dockich's comments on X about what's going on in Indiana?
No,
I haven't followed.
Here's one place where I will give Duke the credit that it deserves. Duke had a wonderful succession committee. Its succession committee was one person. His first name is Mike. And he, there was all the Wojos, the Johnny Dawkins, and he waited for the right guy in John Shire. And, I think Duke's way overrated, but they found the right coach. And that is something that Indiana has not done. And sadly, I don't think it's something that North Carolina's done either.
No.
Duke people were thinking Capel, and I'm thinking to myself, why? He shouldn't be coaching a YMCA team. He's in a place where he can win, and he can't
All right.
win there.
I mean, it's great. Look,
And unlike our man at Houston, who loses Kelvin Sampson, who loses 7 pounds a year, Capel gains about 15 pounds a year.
well, one thing for sure
he
is this:
does.
coaches learn and they evolve. And you look at Bruce Pearl when he was asked about the late season losses. He's like, I'm not panicking. And if you take him on the surface, he's looking, and that team, and I'm gonna go back to what Doug Dean pointed out. Don't buy into the narrative. Bench Chad Baker-Mazara, he's a bad guy, just like Nick Fairley in 2010. Philip Marshall, man, that panel we had on Scarborough Knows last night, Franz Beard, Buddy Martin, Kevin Skarbinski, me, Philip Marshall, that was some powerful stuff. And everyone wanted to criticize Nick Fairley, big defensive tackle for Auburn in 2010. He was rough. He was this. You know what? He had 2 penalties, personal fouls all season long. And everybody remembers when he picked up kind of like a wrestling move and body slammed Aaron Murray. That's life in the SEC. Don't buy in. I'm not buying into it. Bench Chad Baker-Mazara. Franz, you pointed out life in the Dominican Republic playing basketball is literally survival of the fittest. And you give me a roster full of tough kids, and from what I know,
life in the Dominican Republic is survival of the fittest.
Exactly.
So I've been there 3 times. I've been to Haiti 4. I'm gonna tell you, it's not an island you want to hang out on.
And it's what they consider, the Catholic side of the island of Hispaniola. So here's
that's the good side. Trust me.
So here's an interesting thing about this. When you get down to it with Chad Baker-Mazara, I've got boots on the ground, my intern and people at Auburn, students that I know, my friends' kids that know him, and they're like, man, you'd love him if you know him. He took 840 donuts the morning of the second Iron Bowl, March 8th. There's a lot of kids that are taking their NIL money, by the way, and doing some great stuff. And we need to recognize them for what they do. I tell you a guy I'd love to have on the
DJ
show.
Lagway.
Oh man, DJ Lagway
Donating his NIL money. What
he's doing,
just donate, Franz, like $100,000.
100,000. Yeah. And they're doing it out of the goodness because they're not that big where they have tax reasons to do it. Well, they do and they don't. But I think we need to start focusing on the good stuff because there's a lot of great stories out there in college sports. But you know what? I've played and I've worked in businesses where you had people on a team that might have been a little bit out there, but if they can just learn to put the team first, it's unbelievable. Franz Beard, executive producer Brendan Martin, who's unbelievably making things happen. Folks, most often Christ, at least among us, we're the most blessed people in the world. Act like it. Go make great things happen for other people today, and fill your brackets out on Ernie's because we're going to have a lot of fun, and we'll be back tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you. And watch the Buddy Martin Show tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern on this channel.